Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to go over all of the books I read in the month of November. So I have my bullet journal here, and then I also have my reading journal. So taking a look at my bullet journal, I read 12 books in the month of November. 4 of those were physical books, 3 of them were ebooks, and 5 of them were audiobooks. Even though I finished 12 books in November, I don't feel like I had that good of a reading month. I really didn't touch much of my physical TBR for the month of November, so I think that has a part to do with it. And even though I finished 4 physical books, it still doesn't feel like I got that much done. But without further ado, we're gonna go through my reading journal and go just in the order that I finished them this month or last month, and just chat a little bit about them. So the first book that I finished in the month of November was an ebook called Dating After the End of the World, and I actually really enjoyed this book. It was like a zombie apocalypse romance book, and it ended up being really fun. I got this as part of the Amazon First Read program, and I enjoyed the setting. I thought it was funny, I thought it was witty, I thought it was interesting, so I had a really good time with that. And I definitely think I might pick up something else by this author just because I found her voice in that specific story interesting, even though I know that's not her normal genre. The next book that I finished was an audiobook that I listened to on Libby. It was Operation Paperclip. This is about after World War II, bringing Nazi scientists to the US to work on projects, and it was very interesting to just see how that, like, the behind the scenes of how that all worked. And I actually put this on hold months ago, and so I finally got it available, and of course at a time when I had so many of my audiobook holds come available on Libby. But I enjoyed listening to a nonfiction, and I definitely feel like November I was leaning more into that nonfiction space. I also finished An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, which is a memoir, and that was a physical book, which I do have right here. And so it is about Colonel Chris Hadfield's experience being an astronaut and going to space. He's also Canadian, so it was interesting to see like how his path had differed from other books that I've read about American astronauts. And it's also another one off my physical TBR. I bought this book, I can't remember if I bought it this year or last year, but another one off my TBR. The next audiobook that I listened to was actually on Spotify. It was Beyond the Point. This is a book about 3 women who go to West Point and kind of their journey around the turn of the millennium. And this book I had put it on my to-read list years ago, and I just never could find it. It wasn't on Libby, and then I decided to look on Spotify because I needed to use up my hours before they turned over. So I thought it was interesting. It wasn't my favorite, but I'm also really glad that I finally checked it off my list. The next book I'm going to really spend no time on. I had to read it for work. It's called Chop Wood, Carry Water. Wasn't worth my time nor energy, and neither in here. It was one of the worst books I've ever read, and the cultural appropriation and just a lot of bad writing things. So absolutely done with that book. I do have a physical copy of it. I don't have it here. It's at work because when I'm done with it, it's going in the garbage where it belongs. The next book was another audiobook. This one was Buckeye. This one I picked up on Libby for one of my reading challenges that I'm working on, and so it fulfilled that. the beginning of it, I wasn't really into the story, and then there were parts where it switched perspectives that I didn't care about as much. But then as I got into the story, like the last third of the book, I enjoyed a lot more than I did the first part of the book. The next book also came available right around the same time, an audiobook called on Libby. It was The Hunting Wives. I picked up this book because people at my work were talking about it because they watched the Netflix show, and I wanted to watch the show. So I'm like, I really want to read the book first. So I listened to it on audio because I have a pretty long commute. So that is the way I can get through a lot of the books on my list that I'm just are on my periphery that I just want to get to versus like sit down and like read with my eyes. It was fine. It was just, I just found like parts of it boring, and like the plot just seemed like it dragged on. Like there was no consistent pace nor structure to changing the pace, so I didn't really enjoy that part. And then I tried to watch the Netflix show. I got like a little, like 10 minutes in, but it's just so different from the book that I think I just need space from it to be able to actually enjoy the show. The next book that I picked up was Lavinia. This was a Kindle Unlimited book. I picked this one up because I needed an author that started with the letter U, and this is by Ursula K. Le Guin, and to fulfill my alphabet reading challenge before end of December. So I picked this one up because of that, and I also needed a title that started with L for that same challenge, so this knocked out both of those prompts. This one is very literary, and I just don't think I was in the mood for this type of book, so it took me a long time to read. It was just unremarkable, which is sometimes what I want to read, but it just didn't hit the spot for me for this month. The next book that I picked up was another physical book, and this is what really got me back into reading. I picked up The Hidden Reality, which is a nonfiction book, Parallel Universes and the Deep Laws of the Cosmos, and I cruised through this book. I enjoy this author's writing. This is the last book of his that I hadn't read that he has published, and I like how he writes about a complex topic in a way that's very digestible for the average person. So this one was all about like parallel universes and theories behind that. So I found that really interesting and intriguing, and reading this made me really feel like, oh, I'm really feeling nonfiction right now. So this got me back into feeling motivated to read. And this is also the first book off of my November TBR that I touched. The next book was another audio hold that came available on Libby. It was The Robin and the Oak Throne, which is the sequel to The Wren and the Holly Library, which I didn't enjoy the first book very much. The second book was a lot better. However, I thought it was a duology. No, there's a third book coming out next year, so I was kind of annoyed about that because I thought I was ending a series, but I will pick up the third book when it comes out because I enjoyed the story. The next book I picked up was also off of my November TBR. It was Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. This is also a borrowed book to me, so I can return it when I see my family on the holidays. This was exactly what I wanted it to be, digestible. It helped me feel more successful in reading, and it just satisfied me because I knew exactly what I was going to get out of this book versus like going into something blind. I understand Ali Hazelwood's writing style, and I also liked how the story was a bit different. It's not my favorite of her books, but it was still very enjoyable. And then the last book that I finished in the month of November was another ebook. Sorry if you can hear my cat scratching at the door, but we are going to finish this off. Okay, I had to let my cat in, so let's try this again. The last book that I finished off in the month of November was The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I've been wanting to read by this author, and he had a book on Kindle Unlimited, so I picked it up and I really enjoyed it. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of November. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.